Who was the being that authored the Code of the Sith? Greetings again, Acolytes, and welcome back to the Archives. The Codes of the Jedi and Sith are ancient mantras dating all the way back to thousands of years. Each line guides the members of their respective religions in the way that they should walk, whether in the light or the dark. And when it comes to the Jedi Code, it is difficult to know exactly who developed it, as it was something agreed upon by the ancient Jedi Council. But we do know the singular individual responsible for the creation of the Sith Code. Her name was Sorzus Syn, and she may just be the most important person to ever live in Sith history, rivaled in importance only by their order's creator, Ajunta Pall. But where did Sorzus Syn come from? How and why did she create the Sith Code? Well, lucky for us, her personal journal has survived long after her own disappearance, so it's time for us to flip through the crumbling pages to uncover the life of the writer and the author of the Sith Code. Ajunta Pall may have been the very first Dark Lord of the Sith. He may have been the one who began the Dark Jedi Uprising, which led to the Second Great Schism. He may have even been the one to create a war that lasted an entire century, leading to the exile of the 12 Dark Jedi survivors. But from that point forward, the Sith Order would not have existed had it not been for his follower, Sorzus Syn. Like many of Ajunta's followers, her origins are rather mysterious. We do know that she was once a Jedi, perhaps even a master given how adept she was in the ways of the Force. But Sorzus Syn would make her claim to fame in her mastery of alchemy. The main catalyst for all of the Dark Jedi's fall and their eventual transformation into Sith was the discovery and practice of Force alchemy, the way of manipulating life itself. Of all the alchemists in Ajunta's forces though, Sorzus Syn was the greatest by far. During the war known as the 100-Year Darkness, Sorzus created monstrous creations of darkness, gargantuan creatures known as Leviathans. These hellspawn were some of the worst things that the dark side could offer. They were colossal in size and destructive enough to completely splinter Jedi fortresses. They could mess with the senses of Force sensitives, making them hear horrific screams within their mindscape, which included paranoia, and severed them from their own connection to the Force. And they could even consume other beings' life energy, giving them more power. Such titans of terror were developed singularly by Sorzus Syn, and she created them simply as an example of her expertise in the way of twisting life. During the war, it was Sorzus Syn who researched the forbidden text to learn of the Sith planet known as Korriban, and while the Sith pure-blooded species was known to the Jedi, they left them alone. Firstly, because the Sith were naturally inclined towards the dark side, and therefore were hostile to most off-worlders or servants of the light. And second, because the Jedi did not know the location of Sith space. The Stygian Caldera, which was the nebula surrounding Sith space, was located somewhere in the depths of unexplored wild space. But because of Syn's research, she had discovered that this place could only be found by those who could touch the dark side. Korriban itself was a planet that screamed the loudest for those in darkness. It was a beacon in the black, a beckoning to all who specialized in the way of evil. So the time came that Ajunta Pall's forces were defeated on Korbos in the year 6900 BBY. With lightsabers pointed at their backs, the remaining 12 Dark Jedi were exiled aboard a prison ship into the unknown of space. Had Syn not been one of them here, it would have been all over. The 12 Dark Jedi would have died in exile. But Sorzus Syn took the helm and reached out through the Force, listening to its current, its movements. From Korbos, she piloted the derelict prison ship through real space, navigating the breakwater of the Caldera until they came upon the dusty dunes of Korriban. According to her journal, the Sith hailed their arrival, but did not immediately bend the knee despite the Dark Jedi's superior power. It would take weeks for the exiles to learn their ways, and to undermine their power structure. This would have not been possible without Sorzus Syn either, who managed to find a priceless treasure that aided in this prospect. As Sorzus explored the temples of the Sith and their ancient tombs, she came to learn how the Sith priests, known as the Kasai, wore babbles and amulets around their necks to deepen their connection to the dark side. Among these relics was the Sith Avatar, a relic which translated the language spoken or written. Sorzus Syn attributed her easy mastery of the Sith language to this item. Her finding it and learning to use it was how the rest of the Dark Jedi exiles learned the Sith tongue, thus obviously leading to their takeover. Soon, the 12 were hailed as gods. The Sith called them the Gen Jedi. Ajunta Pall, being the strongest of them, became the Gen Ari, or the Dark Lord. This suited Sorzus Syn just fine though, as she planned to take his position from him eventually. But for now, she made it her mission to understand everything she could about the Sith people. She researched their history, adopted their dress, and discovered each one of their customs and cultures. As one of the Gen Jedi, she gained access to the tombs of their long-dead kings. Those held many scrolls, tomes, and holocrons packed with ancient knowledge and power. Using these incredible finds, Sorzus began to delve even deeper into the secrets of the dark side. The ancient Sith kings had a grasp on the dark ways unlike any other, and now their secrets were hers. Her alchemical and sorcerous powers grew exponentially, as did her ability to use and create artifacts. But despite how primitive the proud people of the Sith were, Sorzus Syn could not help but respect and admire them. She loved the way that they had adopted the dark side into every facet of their culture and identity. Their very blood was heated by the flames of the darkness, and they embraced it all fully. This is what Sorzus Syn writes in her journal. The Sith respect power, and they are content to serve us. In fact, the Sith purebloods are marvels. They are a people driven by hunger, rage, and the dark side. The Sith purebloods are strong in the Force, but they do not outmatch us. They are rooted in primitivism. While we were once the Republic's greatest Jedi, they have discovered many secrets, some unknown to any other beings in the galaxy. But their unshakable caste structure instills obedience and purpose, which serves us well as their overlords. Sith purebloods are natural adepts of the dark side. This I must emphasize, for it is this trait that will make us far stronger in exile than we were ever going to be when held within our former ranks. I have always been one to seek out rumors of esoteric worlds and their life bounty, and I do not know of any other species like them. Sorzus Syn's adoration of the Sith way of life soon began to inform how she wanted to structure the New Order. The Jedi had gone from referring to themselves as Dark Jedi to adopting the title of Sith. Though they were not of their own species, they had grafted themselves into the culture so deeply that they began to turn into something else entirely. Syn and the Exiles decided that their reign would continue in the form of an everlasting legacy of Dark Lords, and soon they would build an empire so grand that it would begin to overshadow the Republic, and their order of Dark Lords would overtake the Jedi, wielding the flame of the dark side as their triumphant weapon. But to facilitate this end that they wanted, Sorzus decided that perhaps a unifying mantra would be necessary, something to remind themselves of their future successors, how things must be done as Dark Lords of the Sith. Sorzus Syn developed its words by deeply studying the Sith purebloods of Korriban. She noted that the purebloods take what they can, kill what they don't need, and use everything to its fullest extent. They are ruled by the fittest, and are a model of what the dark side can achieve. The Jedi knew the Jedi Code extremely well, but Sorzus Syn writes that they are also fully aware of its shortcomings. She believed that if they were to establish an order of their own, they should develop a code to point out the failings of the Jedi beliefs, while also laying out a path towards perfection. Sorzus Syn states that the Code of the Jedi confines its adherents. Peace, serenity, and harmony are restatements of the same thing, which is a passive acceptance of limitations. But the Sith are all about breaking the limitations, and to invert their restricted way of thinking, Sorzus Syn wrote this: "Peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion I gain strength. Through strength I gain power. Through power I gain victory. Through victory my chains are broken. The Force shall free me." It is incredibly simple and straightforward, which is why no Sith argued with it and attempted to change it. They have a deep, intimate understanding of what each line means. Like all things with the Sith, the code caters towards the self and selfish ends. It's about embracing one's emotion, using that to bulldoze through all opposition to gain what one desires. It is about domination over limitations, evolution through opposition, and personal liberation, all while denouncing the ways of peace and calm thinking. Of all the accomplishments of Sorzus Syn, this would be her magnum opus. This would shape the Sith forever moving forward. Unfortunately, this manifesto is one of the very last things that Sorzus Syn ever writes in her journal. We sort of lose track of her and her whereabouts after this point in history, as the Jedi began a civil war amongst themselves. Becoming jealous of one another's power, they began to tear each other apart, desperate for secrets. It's assumed that Sorzus Syn died during the Civil War of the Exiles, possibly even killed by Ajunta Pall. We believe this is the most likely cause of her death, since it was always her plan to usurp him. However, he was the strongest of them, more adept at combat, where Sorzus Syn was more philosophical. If she had attempted to challenge him, he would have put a quick end to her in a duel. But having said all of that, with as clever and powerful as Sorzus Syn proved to be, it is not unlikely that she could have escaped or survived. Her body was never located, she never had a tomb built, so either Ajunta Pall destroyed her so utterly that nothing was left behind, or she could still be out there somewhere, watching, waiting, learning. The time of the Sith beginnings was one of discovery. The Dark Jedi had much to learn, But with the resources of Korriban and the Code of the Sith, they became an omen of doom that would plague the galaxy for generations. But again, while Ajunta may have been the one to kickstart it all, it's hard to say whether the Sith would have existed at all without Sorzus Syn. And she is absolutely one of the most underrated Sith in all of the lore, the author of their code. If you enjoyed this video and find yourself hungry for more information about the beginning of the Sith Order though, we made a nearly 2-hour video going over the origins of the 12 Dark Jedi. In that documentary, we highlight the entire history of the Sith Order's formation and go into great detail about each of the exiles that began it. We will link that video in the description down below, The Origin of Evil. But anyway, my friends and acolytes of the dark side, if you have more questions about the beginnings of certain customs and cultures within the Jedi and Sith, please comment them down below. We are always eager to look deeper into the histories to extract secrets, just like Sorzus Syn did in the eons past. And until next time, thank you for joining us in the archives here today, and may the Force be with you.